And we are live. Hello, Disney nerds. How's everybody doing today? Thanks for joining. Come on in. We have a special show for you tonight. We've done this once before, and it was fantastic, and everybody enjoyed it. So come on in, and we'll get started here. We'll get the show shared out and give everybody a few moments to join.
This is going to be a fun one. Happy Halloween, everybody. We're 2 days away from Halloween.
2 days away from Halloween, and a lot of you voted on my poll today. So just to let you know, and we'll be bringing him on shortly, but tonight we're going to have Tomas Estrada, who's a Disney feature animation artist. And I'll bring him on and let him talk a little bit about himself and all that. But also he's going to be teaching us to draw. And we had a poll earlier where the poll was either Dracula Stitch or Witch Minnie Mouse, and it was like 64% went with Dracula Stitch. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to learn how to draw Dracula Stitch here just in a little bit. Welcome, Ryan, Kendra, Jeff, Tracy, Keisha. Keisha says, "Hey, Lisa." She didn't say nothing about Jimmy. I guess.
Well, it's the important one. I'm not going to lie to you. It's the important.
I see her. So Maria, you get your pen. Yeah, if you're just joining, get your pen and paper out. Pencil and paper. Hey, Megan. I know Megan's got her pencil and paper ready.
Ready to rock.
I'm gonna share. I got a couple places I need to share real quick, and then we'll get started.
While he is doing that, just make sure if you can share. Hey, how you doing tonight, Kathy and Audie? Again, for those of you that are just joining, really special show tonight. We have a Animation Academy with Disney animator Tomas Estrada this evening. And yes, Fred, you had to be here for this one. Fred was here for the last one when we drew Goofy, and he's got the Tomas Estrada drawing from that particular one. So that was fantastic. So get your pencil, get your paper, and we're going to introduce our special guest in just one moment here as we share everything out. So again, happy Tuesday night, happy Halloween, and a big special week for us this week.
All right. Hey, Joe, how's it going? So I'm going to introduce Tomas here in just a second, but just to let you guys know, he's going to show us how to draw Dracula Stitch. And what we're going to do after tonight, once yours is done, go ahead and take a picture of it and send it you can email me at Jimmy at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com. So email those to me, to Jimmy at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com. And we're going to take a look at them. Me and Lisa will look at them. Me, Lisa, and Thomas will look at them and pick the best, whoever does the best drawing. And whoever does the best drawing will get Thomas's signed. We'll have Thomas mail out his signed drawing from tonight. So Brandon, get your pencil and paper together, and everybody, please share the show. I'm going to bring Thomas on now.
Hey,
how's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. This is always a lot of fun. I love doing this.
What time is it there? Like 6 o'clock?
7. We're in Salt Lake City.
So you're an hour difference from me, 2 hours from Lisa.
Yes, that's right. We're Salt Lake City. We got I think it's about 20-something degrees outside, and there's some snow falling on the ground. And
check, please. Check.
Yeah.
Shirts on. Can I have my check, please?
Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself? I know some of the people here, we were just talking to Fred, and Fred's even got his Goofy picture from the last time as his
Facebook profile picture.
As his profile picture.
Wow.
So a lot of people we have tonight have been here before and been with us for a while, but some of them are new and don't really know you. So tell us a little bit about you and kind of your road to where you are now, and then also tell us a little bit about that wonderful painting behind you.
Yeah, thanks. So my name's Tomas Estrada. I'm an animator and freelance artist. I started in animation back when we were drawing it on paper with pencils in the 2D animation days. I got my start in 1997. Actually, was at DreamWorks working on their first animated film was called The Prince of Egypt. Was the first thing that I got to work on. From there, I went on to the Road to El Dorado again with DreamWorks, and then at that time, I was able to make the leap over to Disney feature animation to work on. Well, first I started with a little bit of freelance on the Tigger movie, but then I got hired full time to work on The Emperor's New Groove, and then I stayed on there on Groove. Afterwards, we went on to Atlantis, and then Treasure Planet, and then there was a cow movie called Home on the Range at Disney, and I worked on that one as well. From there, after feature with Disney, I went back to DreamWorks to work on their last hand-drawn film. Was a movie called Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas at DreamWorks. At that point, we had stopped doing hand-drawn animation, was kind of winding up, and they were doing a lot of computer animation. So I ended up working on, I was able to retrain onto the computer animation, and I got onto films like Shark Tale and Over the Hedge over at DreamWorks. From there, because I was learning the computer animation stuff, it opened a lot of doors to things like video games, and so I got onto onto games such as God of War 2 and Gears of War 2 and a couple Spyro the Dragon games, and I got to work on a game called Uncharted: Drake's Fortune, and a bunch of different things like that. And then probably in about 2008, I rejoined Disney with Disney Interactive, and that's when they relocated me and my family up from Southern California up to here in Salt Lake City with Disney Interactive to work on some Disney video games like Cars 2 and Toy Story 3. And that eventually led into the big one, which was Disney Infinity. And I worked on that for many years with that. And then once after that was came to an end, the studio in Salt Lake reformed under Warner Brothers, and I worked on that with them for a while on an unannounced title. I don't think they've announced it just yet. With that, at probably about 2017, I started doing a lot of Comic-Cons, and it was just a lot of fun because of the films and the games I worked on. We started having a lot of fun just traveling around doing shows, and so I actually resigned from Warner Brothers, and today my wife and I travel around the country doing Comic-Cons, talking about the films, and I get to meet a lot of great people and sell some art, and so it's been really cool. And so I'm full-time freelance now, and what's cool with that is that it's opened doors to a lot of different people and places and stuff to work on. I had an opportunity to work with the Foo Fighters recently on some stuff with them, and then I'm now doing some work as well with Rat Fink. If anybody's familiar with the old Rat Fink stuff from the 60s and 70s, there's a hot rod counterculture kind of art thing, and so it's just a lot of different stuff. But you know, I still have a great love for Disney. I love drawing Disney stuff. You could see one of the pieces I finished recently is an acrylic painting here. And so, yeah, I just have fun doing that kind of stuff. And so I do a lot of things with, as far as custom commissions I take, when I'm able to, and that's kind of it in a nutshell there.
So the 101 Dalmatians picture behind you that you did on acrylic, we were talking before the show, and I know you're doing that one as a print on canvas. If somebody here on the show wanted to pick one of those up, where would they go to get that?
So they can actually find that. I mean, they can message me directly on Facebook here. They can also go to my website. It's artoftomasestrada.com, where you can find. I'm offering that as a canvas print of different sizes, and I hand sign all of those. And if anybody, for the collector in you, you can actually purchase this original painting if you if you had the need or the want for that. But just contact me, and yeah, I do not only stuff that's there on my website, but I do custom work as well. If there's a particular scene or character, that kind of thing you like, depending on my schedule and how things are going, I'm able to take a commission or two. So yeah, just let me know.
That's fantastic. Again, thank you for coming in and joining us. I'm going to drop you down because I know you got to kind of reset up the camera.
Yeah.
Show us how to draw Dracula Stitch.
Yeah, I'm going to get the camera angle down here so you guys can see my paper and follow along, and this should be a lot of fun.
So before we go, you have this fancy dancy thing behind you. What is that right there that's all gray?
Oh, this thing.
Yes.
So what this is a character maquette. This is like what would this be made out of? It's some kind of
resin or something.
Like a resin, yeah. So this is a resin sculpture, and so what this is a what's called a maquette, and they use these for reference for the animators when we're working on the film. This was a film I'd happened to be on, was New Groove I'd mentioned before, and so they would give these out to the artists as basically a reference. Sometimes when you're drawing the character from different angles, you like to know, well, what does he look like if he's facing from behind, and we need to get this kind of angle of his head, or if we want to get his profile. And so this is a really good resource for that with reference. And so I was fortunate enough while working on the film, they gave these out as a premiere wrap party gift. You've got the little thing there. It says cast and crew premiere. And so this was something that they handed out to everybody that was working on the film. And so I was lucky enough to be able to pick up one of these. And so it's been something that I like to keep around.
That's absolutely incredible.
That's phenomenal.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I really like it. It's probably one of the nicest wrap party gifts that I'd gotten from any of the films.
It's it's one of my favorites. You named several Disney films that I would consider. We talk about underrated films with Atlantis, Planet, and Emperor's New Groove. So
it was during a time in 2D animation when they were starting to shift over to 3D stuff. And so a lot of the films at that time, like Treasure Planet and Atlantis, they didn't get a lot of the marketing and publicity because, the CG stuff was just getting better and better. And, the fans were really enamored with this new look. And so those films were really, really taken off. And so I think Disney recognized that as well. And so, they were really starting to shift gears. And unfortunately, I think some of those films were kind of caught in the middle of that, these 2D films, where they were, kind of moving into the new thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, it was an interesting time to be in there when 2D was shifting over to 3D. If you've got the time, there's a fun story. We considered ourselves when we were working on the 2D stuff. We thought we were this like the pure artist, because we were drawing on paper and that kind of thing. And we used to kind of look down on the CG stuff because at that time, the CG stuff that Pixar was doing was like Toy Story and Bug's Life. It was like these kind of rigid bodies. And they couldn't do the real good, smooth, fluid animation yet at that time. And so we would tell ourselves, once this CG fad goes away, we're going to be okay, because the audiences want to see really good fluid animation. They want to see stuff that really moves nicely. And that's what we can do in 2D. And, the CG guys are doing, they're doing fun stuff, but nothing really good and fluid like that. And I remember the day we were working on the Emperor's New Groove, and somebody came in with a trailer for the new Pixar film. And so, we were all very kind of, well, let's see what those guys are doing, at Pixar in this new film. Well, it's this new movie they brought in. It was called Monsters Incorporated. they were like, all right, let's see this trailer. And it was that first teaser trailer, you remember, in Boo's bedroom, and it's all dark and the closet opens up and these two creatures fall out into her room. And we see the little green guy stand up. And then behind him is this blue character covered in fur. And he stands up and he does this big stretch and the fur just moves so beautifully. And I remember there was just this collective.
They figured it out.
They did it. They did it. Like, this is gonna put us. This is all. This is gonna put us all out of a job. And it was then we knew, like, we better learn this new tool, because it just got better after that. You know, they did The Incredibles and everything just moved so nicely. And so yeah, it was an interesting time for sure to be a part of that.
One of our other co-hosts, Sam, and I got to go do a screening in Walt Disney World of Toy Story 4 before it came out, and we were talking about how incredible the animation was. If you look back and compare, if you looked at the cat and Toy Story 4 compared to the dog in Toy Story 1,
it's incredible,
and it's ridiculous because the dog in Toy Story 1 was very boxy and very. You know, you don't remember it that way until you really think about it back and watch it again. You're like, holy cow, this is terrible.
Yeah, you look at the humans in the first Toy Story, you know, Andy's mom, and all the humans always looked so strange. And boy, they just it's just so amazing what they do nowadays.
Yeah, it is. All right, man, we're going to drop you down, let you get set up.
I'm
going to everybody else to get their pencils and paper ready. We're going to give Thomas just a couple minutes to get set up, get his camera set up to where he can be looking down and showing you guys how to draw this Dracula Stitch. And remember, you guys draw it and take a picture of it, email it to Jimmy@thedisneynerdspodcast.com. And then between me, Lisa, and Thomas, we'll pick out the best one. The one we like the most, and whoever that is will get the copy, get the signed copy that Thomas does tonight. So get your pencils and paper ready. Chelsea, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, so it's always so exciting to have Thomas here. So just a reminder, get your pencils and your paper ready. We are always excited to bring you Animation Academy. Tonight we'll be drawing in Halloween theme, Dracula Stitch.
Dracula Stitch. Chelsea, you still got a second? Just grab some pencil and paper or a pen and paper. Awesome, Chloe. Good for you. 4 days I'll be in Walt Disney World. I'm very, very excited. I'll give you just a minute here to grab what they need. Like Chelsea just came in, so I'll give you a minute to grab what you need. Then we're going to bring Thomas back on. We are not. I'm not going to be drawing, Megan. I just don't have the room right here. If I was set up just watching, I could, but I got mixers and keyboards and mice and microphones and phones and the calendars. I got my Moments of Magic.
See?
Moments of Magic 2020 calendar in front of me. Everybody should go over there and get one of those. They make great Christmas presents. Ryan, you can always go back once we're done and watch the replay and do it and follow along and do the drawing.
I'm going to have my daughter do the same thing. She's obviously in bed. So I'm going to have her go back and watch the replay and drop a picture. Perfect, Billy. Perfect.
You may win with that. Who knows?
Right. Don't forget. We may not get any submissions except for yours, Billy.
Joe said, I can't even draw a stick. Dude, let me tell you something. Josie will. When you can take pictures like this.
You don't need to draw.
You don't need to prove yourself to me, bro. You don't need to prove yourself to me. All right. Let's bring Thomas back. I hope everybody is ready. Stitch is my favorite character. So that was I actually brought up Stitch to Thomas when we were talking about who to draw to, what options to give on the poll. But he wanted to, because of Halloween, he wanted to, do something more Halloween. So he said, what about Dracula Stitch? And then we also, in the poll was uh, a witch, a Minnie Mouse witch. And man, out the gate, the Minnie Mouse witch took off. And then all of a sudden, Stitch just kept going.
Yes, that is the one and only Joe, Chelsea.
D, you definitely should go ahead and give it a shot. It's going to be fun.
We don't need to
Thomas,
see it, but give it a shot. Thomas is an awesome instructor.
Thomas is going to make this easy. So you won't be able, I'm going to make Thomas full screen so you guys can see him the best. Me and Lisa will still be here to talk to you guys and talk to Thomas along the way. But just to let you know, you won't be seeing me or Lisa. So here we go.
All righty. Can you guys see this okay?
I don't know, Lisa. It's not changing the format for me.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Hold on. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
What do you think?
That's good.
I'll bring little Cusco here so you can see what we're doing.
Sweet. Joe Debo, you are famous.
You guys see that all right?
Yes, we do.
All right. I'm going to just move the camera around. I'm going to try not to run into it while I'm drawing. All right. That's all right. Looks good.
That looks good.
Cool. Okay. Let's get started here. You know, it's funny. I was listening to you guys talk, and you know, some people were talking about how, you know, they draw stick figures and that kind of thing, and you'd be surprised how much stuff, you know, when we draw actually begins with you know, with just stick figures. You know, we look at a character like Stitch, and one of the important things that I like to do, you know, thinking about these characters is, you know, breaking characters down into really basic shapes, that kind of thing is really, really important. But it all starts with stick figures. It all starts with little basic lines of sketches of sticks and skeletons, that kind of thing. And what you want to kind of start thinking about it as you're drawing from the inside out. You know, we're drawing with what's called an underdrawing. And so we're going to start with the underdrawing. The underdrawing is basically like the foundation that everything is going to build on top of. You know what I mean? And so with Stitch, he's got a couple of main shapes that he begins with. But it's important to keep your underdrawing as light as you can, because we're going to probably erase most of it later on. And so you don't want to start with really dark lines. I'm going to start with it a little bit darker just so you guys can see what I'm doing. But you want to draw lightly when you do the underdrawing, because that's going to be kind of the skeleton, the foundation of our drawing that will come on top of this. So with Stitch, his main parts is, you know, we have his body, well, his head first, which is just the big circle. But then we want to just do kind of a skeleton with his spine, with his legs, and with his arms. He's going to have one arm that kind of facing up and one arm down. But you could see already, you know, what I'm starting with is really basic shapes of the skeleton. And what this is going to allow us to do is this lets us very early figure out his proportions without committing too much detail. You know, the worst thing you can do is when you start putting in a lot of detail too early, when you're not quite sure if the legs are too long or too short, or if the head is too big or too small. Because if you put the details in before any of this, oftentimes what happens is you get all this beautiful detail in, and then you take a step back and you realize, wow, his legs are too long or his head is too small. The proportions aren't correct. And now you've spent all this time with detail that you now have to go back and erase. And so we want to start with as basic a shapes as we can, so that we can figure out where everything is going to be before we start adding in all that detail. So he's basically two circles. He's got one for his head and one for his body. And there's a little bit of space in between. So if you can imagine just kind of doing these two shapes. He's a character what we would call like a two-head high character, which means it only takes two heads to make the entire height of this character. Some characters are 7, 5, or 6 heads high. He's a really short character, and he's just basically 2 heads high. So if you can imagine a shape for his head and a shape for his body is kind of all we need to get those two together. So we
Thomas,
no, go ahead.
Are you using this special artist paper and special artist pencil that you got to get from the artist club, or where
not at all. This is a little Pentel mechanical pencil that I bought. I think it was at Walmart. And then this is a watercolor paper. It is a little bit thicker, and I like to use that because it holds up a little better if I decide to color this in. But even this paper, this is a watercolor paper that I also purchased at Walmart. So it's nothing really fancy. I try to keep things pretty simple. And so all the stuff here you can find just about anywhere.
Okay.
So we have his main body and his main head, and we have these little skeletons for his arms. And what we can do with the arms is we're going to put the little balls on the end that are going to represent his hands, and then the same thing with his feet, with his legs. And so when you have it drawn just basically like this, we could start to imagine how big his head's going to be, how long his arms are going to be. And we haven't really done a lot of detail. So we're not wasting a lot of time having to fix all the detail, having to erase a lot, because we're going to get everything down here first early on and keeping that as nice and simple as we can. So we want him he's going to be leaning over just a little bit. So I build in these basic shapes. Another thing we gotta account for is his ears. And his ears, kind of the same thing. I want to do just a center line first, just to establish how tall those ears are going to be. And these lines are just from the center, and I'm going to build the shape from both sides later on. Also with his head, something that's important is putting in these crosshairs. Crosshairs are really important because what this is doing is this is going to set up the center line and a horizontal line where everything is going to go where it needs to be. And this is almost like an anchor. Having these crosshairs is going to help us set up things like his nose. I want his nose right here in the center, and we're going to put it just. And by having that center line, we know the nose can sit right on this horizontal line, and we could see the space between here and here, so it keeps things nice and equal. So it's important to have that. We want him looking this direction a little bit, screen right. And so because of that, we're angling this center line a little bit this way. So we go ahead.
I'm going to move your camera just a little bit because it seems to be out of it. It was in focus. Now it seems to be out of focus a little bit.
Let's see. Sorry about that. Let's see what we can.
It happens. The autofocus is just not picking up.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me do that.
Oh, yeah, I think that helped. Yep, I believe that did.
Did that do it? All right. You jump in and let me know if this thing gets out of whack again. So we have his nose, and he's got these great big shapes for his eyes, and they kind of sit at this point right where the nose is. And again, we're coming right down to this horizontal line, and it kind of wraps around his head. And he's got the other one that does the same thing, over on this side. And being able to build this shape here, it's kind of like it's going to frame his pupils. And it's just going right up and then back around. But we want this little point right in here. So it's going to curve and come to that point right in there. And then with that same point, which is really nice, is we're going to follow it out just a little bit, and then that's where his pupils are going to go. And they kind of do the same thing. They kind of point in just slightly. And we can use these corners here as a guide to tell us, where that's going to be.
Interesting to see as you do this, and there may be a word for it. I don't know that when you got to the point where it wasn't just shapes anymore, that I could say, oh, that's Stitch. Like it got to the point where if I didn't know who you were drawing, once you get to a point that it's like, oh, I know exactly where he's going with this.
Yeah, he's got very strong stylized kind of face. We're going to cut in a little bit down here for his nostrils, and we're just kind of putting in these little ovals almost. And so we could already start to see that. What's that?
It's like watching the character come to life.
Yeah, sure.
It's very cool.
And then we can start to frame the bottom of his mouth. Something like that. But we don't want to forget about the rest of his body. So the thing with Stitch, he kind of starts out a little bit thin. So we had these skeletons that we did for the arms. So all I'm going to do with these skeletons is I'm just going to add some volume on each side. So he's got kind of thin upper arms. They kind of come wide. And so I'm just going to follow that shape. See how I did those balls before at the end of the sticks? I'm using that to build this shape here for his arms. And he's got the other arm that kind of does the same thing. It kind of follows that shape in there. And he's got this cool design with the thicker lower ends of the arms and the thinner on top. And then we're going to really lightly kind of just block in his fingers. And again, I'm just using really basic sticks, nothing fancy. But you want to do this nice and light so that you can erase some of these later on. And then from the lower part of his body, you could see where we're going to combine this circle. It's going to come in a little bit and then back out again for the lower half of his body. And then with his legs, they're kind of flattened out at the bottom, but we wanted a round shape. So we're kind of imagining if you were to draw through it, you would make it like a tube almost. If you drew through this tube, you would be able to get this nice round shape. But again, remember, this is the underdrawing, and so once we have this round shape, we can come back and erase that interior line that we don't need anymore. So see how it built that nice shape? We came down, I drew these circles, remember the circle, we came down, and again, he's kind of thinner on top, and it goes wider on the bottom, and we're going to follow this shape. We could even draw through it still to really get this nice round shape, and then it's going to cut back up again. See how we're building it all with those basic shapes?
Very cool.
And it's funny, Stitch is an interesting character. His design was created by Chris Sanders, was the animation. He's a director on Lilo and Stitch. And he also is the guy that came up with the design of Stitch. He's got a very distinct kind of style of drawing, Chris Sanders does. And after Lilo and Stitch, we're going to draw the mouth in. And I'm starting with just a really basic shape. We want this nice curve. It's going to go up and back down again. See, it's like, it's going to start.
He's my favorite character. That's why I threw him at you first.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. He's one of my favorites, too. He's a great design. He's very appealing. What's interesting is Chris Sanders, who designed Stitch, at some point in his career, he made his way also to DreamWorks like I did. and he worked and designed a character, an iconic character at DreamWorks. If you would think of this kind of design with the wide set eyes and the wide mouth, the thin on top and the thick on the bottom, can you guess which character he designed over at DreamWorks?
Oh, is it that black dragon?
Yeah,
Toothless.
Toothless.
One of
Yeah,
my favorite animated characters of all time.
If you
That's
look at
fantastic.
Toothless, if you put Toothless next to Stitch, you'll see very similar style.
that's very cool. I did not know that. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Because that's Chris Sanders' this has been kind of his iconic kind of design styles, the wide set eyes, the wide mouth, and so that's kind of what he did over there. So we have the top of his mouth, and then we're going to follow this to the bottom. It's going to kind of run parallel with the bottom here of his head. We get real close, and we're going to build in that bottom part of his mouth. Like so. Now with his ears, so this is the basic part, and then there's a few little details we'll throw in there. Oh yeah, let's not forget his fingers. So his fingers, we can just do little oval shapes. They're almost like little olives. And I'm drawing them using these the little sticks as guides, kind of like that. Same thing on this side. He's got these little gaps in between his fingers. So just by drawing these really basic shapes, we're able to start to construct his hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend each of those little shapes into each other. And then from there, we're able to get rid of that underdrawing. And then you have that little shape of the hand. And then you could even put the little points on there at the top for his little fingernails. Same thing down here. We have those shapes built, and so we're going to start to just melt those shapes together. And then you can erase those lines. So see how it's almost like sculpture. We're building shapes, and then we're kind of melting them together to create the form that we need.
Very cool.
So because we started with these basic shapes, we're able to get pretty close to his body, you know, trying to keep those proportions in there. So with his ears, we started with just these simple lines here. We're going to draw these big ovals here. We'll do one on each side. And with these ovals, I'm going to be able to follow this line here, and it's going to come right to the end and then right back in there. See how it's almost like a big S curve?
Yeah.
And then this one's going to just follow this shape all the way in as well. And then we want to draw the back part, which is just going the opposite. So we have the S, and then we have this little, like a backward C shape.
That's awesome how that came together.
So we'll do it again on this side. We'll do the big oval.
I mean, I think that's so cool. Because for a minute there, it looked just like a big oval floating out there. And then
yeah,
they melt, you know, like you said, you kind of melt it together and add the detail of the back of the ear. And then all of a sudden it makes.
There it is. And then we're able to erase that underdrawing. And then the same thing on this side. We're going to do this S curve. Kind of go behind his hand a little bit. And then this one's just going to follow through. And then we draw the back of his ear. And then there it is. Something, though, we got to remember with Stitch is he's got a couple of little, it's got like these little cutouts. So if we just do this little pie shape there, and then we can do another one. It's got another one down this way. And then we can erase this little line.
Now, do you find with this, the thicker paper allows you to be a little more, to get rid of, to erase those lines a little easier without having to worry about tearing it and stuff like that?
Yeah, it definitely holds up a lot better using the watercolor paper. You know, typically, but you know, you can draw it on any paper as long as you remember to keep your underdrawing nice and light. Then you can go back and erase that stuff. But it definitely helps on the watercolor paper. It is a lot more durable. You know, and then let's see here. So he's got these shapes here. So the top of this shape, if we put a thicker line right up there, that kind of, this little mask here works well for the top of his eyebrows. So he's got little eyebrow shapes there, and having those up here really allows the animator to get a lot of emotion from this character. You know, having them set up high, he looks really happy. If we were to angle them, you know, you can angle them down where he could look angry. They can really bend them up to make him sad. You get a lot of that with these eyebrow shapes here. So we're gonna put those in. He's also got a couple of little creases on his face above his nose, and we're just following the shape of the nose here, just a couple of smaller ones. And then he has a little bit of hair, and these are just kind of a little jagged lines. You can do 3 or 4, and that just sits on the top of his head there. And so you have your kind of basic stitch there. Something we also got to remember, he's got the same with the little jagged hair on the top of his head. He has a little bit of there on his chest, and we're just doing these little jagged lines. But because this is for Halloween, we're going to take this a little step further. Oh, and so then with his eyes also, we're going to add a little bit of shading in his eyes. Something you want to remember when you're drawing eyes is always putting in these little highlights. So you can shade this in. You know, if you take your pencil, you can put it on its edge, or you can just color it in. I'm just going to shade it in here really quick so we can see it. Having this little highlight here, what that is like the little shine in his eye.
It gives it like life instead of just being like,
yeah.
I was gonna say
instead of the eye head.
If we were to blacken that little dot in, or if we had forgotten to put it in there, it would make his eyes look really dry and almost like he's dead. Having just that little highlight, it makes the eye appear moist or wet, and that gives it all the life right there. It's just those little dots.
That's cool.
Because you'll see that, you know, if you look at anybody, everybody has those little dots. You know, if there's any kind of light source, whether it's a light bulb or the sun, you'll see those little highlights in there. And so you want to make sure you keep that in there.
Unfortunately, Lisa doesn't have those in her eyes. She has
no,
Very dead eyes.
Dead to the soul.
It's like her heart is black.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
So typically, Stitch would have a lot of teeth going all the way across his face. But because we're doing Vampire Stitch, we're going to do 2 big teeth on each side here. And what this is, all I'm doing here is like these little bent kind of pizza shapes. And we're going to put two big teeth there, and then a couple of little ones on each side. And that's going to give him a little bit of a vampire look. And then the other thing we want to do with him is we're going to build a little bit of a cape behind him. So if we imagine this kind of cape was being, we're going to put like the little medallion here in the front, which is just the little circle. And I'm going to imagine there's like a fabric that's coming off of this, and it's going back under his neck, behind his shoulders. And then that's going to come out around the outside here. So if I just drew like an S curve again.
Our friend Joe Diebold said candy corn shaped teeth.
Hey,
And
I like
was
that.
actually thinking the same thing as you were drawing. I said they almost look like the bottom, like a candy corn,
And it fits the theme.
and it fits the theme. That's right.
So I'm going to do this S curve here, and then we're going to do another one. We can have it coming this way. And with this flowy cape, you can kind of go almost any way you want. But I want this curve to be here, and we're going to fill it in on both sides. So it's kind of going up and over his arms. And once we have that, you're going to take this point over to this point, and I kind of want to do like a nice curve, like another S curve. It's like I'm laying down an S. And you could draw right through the character so that you make sure all your lines connect. Sometimes if you don't draw through the character, I might have it come up here, but this line may come down here, and then this one may be up here, and it's going to look off. So if I draw right through the character, I can make sure that it's connecting behind him. And once I have that, then I can come back and erase that line because I did it nice and light the first time. And so now what that's done is I'm able to get the back of this cape going right behind his body. And then what else we can do is we can do another one. We're going to do this is like a little C shape or like a reverse C. We're going to put one over there, and we're going to put another one down here up on this side. And what we can do with this is we're going to take from this point, we're going to go over to this point, but we want to go all the way across like a big rainbow, a big arc going from here. And we're going to draw really lightly from there all the way across to the other side so that we're going to see this part right here, and it's going to hit that point, and then this one's going to come out here. But again, because we're drawing through the character, we know that all of this is connecting where it's supposed to be. And this is going to give us a really cool big collar that he has on behind his head. And then again, we can come back and we can erase some of these lines. We're going to clean up a lot of these lines in here. And then we can add some of these little details that we see on Stitch. You know, like underneath his hand, he has like these little pads under here. We could see that. And we could see that under his hand on this side. This one we're not going to see because it's behind there. It's kind of the back of his hand. And then something with his toes. We're going to draw just these little round shapes there. We can do some more on this side. And then we can fill in. He's almost got like just little creases above it to create these little toes there. Same thing, we can put just these little creases on there.
Hey, Sandra, thanks for joining. Sandra, go back and watch the replay and go ahead and draw your Stitch and take a picture of it and email it to me at jimmy@thedisneynerdspodcast.com. And we're going to do a drawing of, and we're going to, whoever wins the drawing will win Thomas's drawing here.
You're going to get this, you're going to get this one right here.
Get that one right there signed by Tomas Estrada. So make sure to go do it and send it to us. We're going to pick between me, Lisa, and Thomas. We're going to pick our favorite one of the ones you guys draw, and whoever wins will get this one in the mail.
That's right. So what we can do is we can clean up some of these interior lines. Like we want to connect his legs there to the rest of his body. Same thing here. We erase this center line. We don't need that one anymore. So it's almost like we're drawing. We did a whole drawing under here just to get rid of it. But it's really important because you could see how much that underdrawing helped us to keep everything lined up here.
It's like if you were building a house, you would run string lines
Yeah,
from here to there to make sure that all your boards are on that string.
that's right. And and you have a foundation that you're building that house on a frame, even though you don't see it, it's underneath there, and everything is built on top of that. And how much better that house is with that strong foundation. And that's what that initial drawing was. All those little stick figures was that foundation that got put on here.
Sandra, none of us are good at this stuff. That's why we have Thomas showing us how to do it. So,
And we all got to start somewhere. I wasn't just born drawing this stuff. I mean, it was something that I had learned over the years, and drawing this technique, being able to draw with these basic shapes, was something that I had learned, to do. It wasn't something I just knew already.
I bet you've got a lot of hours at the drawing table.
I spend probably most of my time right here. So that's kind of your basic little vampire stitch there.
Makes me very happy.
It does.
Is that cool?
That is fantastic.
The people watching can't see me, but Lisa can, and she can see that I was smiling the whole time.
Me both.
So that's kind of the basics of it there, and I hope that helped. I'm gonna put my name down here on the bottom, and
which is something every artist should do, right?
Oh yeah, you should always sign your work so that they know. You should be proud of it. And the thing is, it takes a lot of practice, and it's not every drawing is going to be a home run. The majority, so many of my drawings I end up tossing out, and it's all about iteration and learning and growing. And so don't worry about it if that first one isn't exactly the way you want it. Do another one. I mean, even this drawing here, I can pick out little things that I probably could have done better, and that's always going to be that. It's always going to be there.
And I think part of that too is also that you're probably your own worst critic.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can pick things out of there. I can't. I couldn't tell you how you, because you know what I mean. So it's I couldn't tell you what you could have done better. I mean, I think
it's funny. I get some artists that are starting out, and they'll tell me, I just feel so insecure. I'm not sure if my stuff is good enough, or I'm not sure. And the thing is every artist feels that way. Anybody that creates anything is going to feel that way, because you always see stuff that you probably could have done better, and it's not a bad thing. As long as it doesn't disable you and stop you from doing it, it's a good thing in that it keeps you growing. It keeps you wanting to get better. And so having that little bit of, I wish I could have done that a little bit better, it doesn't go away. And you just kind of learn to use that as a tool of that. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep growing. I don't want to stop learning something. And so I still feel that with my drawings. I still, when I post stuff, I'm like, I probably could have done that a little bit better. It's very common. So don't sweat that.
I think it's fantastic, Thomas.
Cool. Well, there you go. That's I'm
gonna have to talk to you after the show, because I'm gonna have to make you draw another one for me.
So good.
Since I already told them we were giving this one away.
Yeah.
Oh wait, James Bourne won that one. Oh,
the fix was in.
No, seriously, guys, email me your stitch to Jimmy at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com, and we will look at and pick the best one, and whoever wins will get that one right there.
There you go.
Signed by Mr. Tomas Estrada.
Fantastic. That came out so good.
I agree. My wife just said that she would like to see my daughter take a shot at drawing it, and I agree. I tagged her in it earlier because she's a little artist herself.
I want to see
very
that. I
cool.
want to see my daughter take a shot at it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see them.
So this is
All right, Thomas, I'm going to drop you down for a second, let you flip the camera back around, then
Yep.
we'll bring you back up and sign off.
Perfect.
Holy cow, it's me. Why won't I go away?
Gotta take you.
Oh, there
and
we go.
Gotta do that.
You got to turn that little button off
Yes.
down at the bottom. All right. My friend.
Hey, there we are.
That
That's
was
awesome.
phenomenal.
Oh, cool. No, I'm glad. I hope you guys like that.
It was really, really cool. It was fantastic. I really like the way it came out. It's very cool.
There you go.
Look at that puppy right there.
Amazing. That's people. That's an actual piece of like art you can have in your house. And I don't want to knock a print or a giclée or anything like that, but that's an original piece of art, original sketch. So that's a big deal.
Done right in front of your eyes, right here. On
Really big deal. Done right in front of your eye. You can archive this video and say, "Hey, that picture on my wall. Let me show you. I can show you the guy drawing it."
That's cool.
Megan said she gave Stitch fat hands. He does kind of have fat hands.
Yeah, he does. You know, he's got some fun proportions like that.
Yeah.
I will never look at Stitch again without thinking of Toothless. Thank you for that, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's right. Same guy.
Good point. What any other characters like that we would know that would be that he did that?
I think you might be able to find some stuff, but there's some really early concept character designs of Bolt that Chris Sanders designed as well, and there might be some of that floating around online. If you look at that stuff, the early designs of Bolt look very similar to this character as well. He had the same wide set eyes and the wide mouth, and it was kind of interesting to see that. I'm trying to think of anything that was finished though that looks similar, but nothing comes to mind.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool, and it's cool that you know that. So I did not. Now, once you said, hey, what character kind of looks like this, immediately Toothless came to my head. I didn't even know his name till Lisa said it. And I've seen the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his name, but you're right. He does. I mean, he just has that same look.
Yeah, it's just a really cool style that Chris Sanders developed years ago, and it's become kind of his signature look. And so, when he designs characters, that kind of comes out, and so you see it in different varying degrees. But that's probably the two biggest, ones, obviously.
Is that typical? Are there a lot of artists who have a certain style like that you see come out in their characters? I mean, I'm assuming most animators, you can't, even if you do have that, you kind of you got to beat that down a little bit because you got multiple people drawing the same characters. So you
right.
Have to
well, but if you're at the top and you're designing that character for everyone else,
So you're making the main picture that everybody else has to then animate.
Yes. So like if I were to work on that film, I would be drawing to Chris Sanders' style. I think another character, doesn't look a lot the same, but very similar animation style is Glenn Keane. Was the supervising animator on Beauty and the Beast, and he's done a lot of characters, and one of them has a similar kind of presence is Silver on Treasure Planet. Is the other character that Glenn Keane designed and animated, and he's got that really big mass and really cool motion and the way he moves. is got a lot of similarities to Beast, especially with all the stuff going on his face and all the lines and that kind of thing. And especially when you see the rough animation of those two characters, you can tell right away that it's Glenn Keane working on those.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's good stuff, man. Brandy said next is Elvis Stitch.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people like Elvis Stitch. I like Elvis Stitch. If you're a Stitch fan and an Elvis fan, it's no brainer.
Two of my favorites.
And then my wife said whoever wins should frame them side by side. That's a cool idea.
Oh, there
whoever
you go.
wins, take their print and Thomas's print and put them next to each other.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that would be really cool.
Sorry. One more time, Thomas. Where can people find you? Because he'll do. You'll do prints for people. You'll do.
I have prints that I sell in different sizes, whether it's 11 by 14 up to poster size, and I do like the canvas prints. As well as custom commissions, if there's a specific thing that you want. And again, that's just depending on my schedule and how busy I get, but I will take commissions from time to time. You can find me right there on my website, and that's at artoftomasestrada and .com. You could also find me online with the same thing, Art of Tomas Estrada. You'll find me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And stop by and say hi. Let me know if you watched this and if there was something that you liked. I'd love to hear from everybody.
And I just want to mention one more thing, and then I'll let Jimmy wrap everything up with you, is you are working on a greeting card with Yzma.
Oh, yes.
That is got to be one of my favorite things that I'm sharing around social media right now. You've got Yzma as the Grinch. That is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I every now and then something will pop in my head, and I'll see something. I saw something as the Grinch, and he's got a lot of very similar stylized facial features to Yzma, and so it just reminded me of her. And so I'm like, oh, that might be something fun to do as a little Christmas card, is to have an Yzma Grinch.
You need to take that over to like TeePublic and put it on a T-shirt.
Oh yeah,
I would buy that. I would buy that.
I bet people would buy that. I'm serious. You need a TeePublic. Go sign up, dude, and you can create your own site. You can take your art and put it on their shirts.
Yeah,
and they'll sell it. And yeah,
that would be something cool. I'll have to check that out.
I'm telling you, do it. People would buy that, and a lot of people like that type of crossover style art. I have like a shirt that Karen Hallion did. That it's the scene from the Haunted Mansion on the tightrope.
Yeah,
but it's Leia, and she's holding an R2D2 umbrella parasol, and it's got the little one-eyed thing from the trash compactor.
Yeah.
Like poking up underneath her instead of the crocodile. So people love stuff, anything like that crossover, like when you're crossing
the
mashups. Worlds. Yeah, the mashups people love that stuff. So yeah, you need to get over there and get that on a T-shirt, because
I actually make some shirts on my website. You can find some of those. Yeah, I'll have to maybe throw one of those up there on one of my shirts.
Oh, that would be. People would love that. I guarantee.
Yeah, you have to look for that.
Well, my friend, we're gonna have to get you down to Walt Disney World next November. I know your calendar gets booked up, so we'll start working on that. Get you to come to.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Come to our meetups and shake hands and.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, my man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. It's good to see you guys. Good to see you, Lisa and Jimmy. It's been great.
Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Always a fantastic guest. We love him.
He's wonderful. One of my favorite people. I hope everybody here enjoyed watching, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you drew a good stitch.
And if you didn't get a chance to do it, once we are done with this, it replays It is available on our Facebook page. So rewatch the show,
Yeah.
do the drawing, and then submit it to Jimmy at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com. You'll hear it throughout the show. So redo the show and then rewatch the show and submit your drawing, please. Don't think that it's not good enough. To do that submission, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna leave it open for a couple days. We're not gonna until I stop getting emails. So for at least 3 days, I'll give you guys a chance to get those emailed in. So me and Lisa will review them together, and Thomas, and we'll pick one that we really, really like.
Good, thank
that
you.
It's gonna be yours.
Yes. Fantastic. Maria's already sent hers in. Mike owns some watercolors from Thomas already.
Awesome, Mike.
That's fantastic.
Jeffrey, we did not do any call-ins tonight. We did an animation academy with a Disney feature animation artist, Tomas Estrada, who taught us how to draw Dracula Stitch or Vampire Stitch. I guess it's Dracula Stitch. So watch the replay and get some pencil and paper and try and draw Dracula Stitch. It was amazing. And then we're going to pick once you send it in, we're going to pick one of those and send Thomas's drawing of Dracula Stitch, his signed actual sketch, which is mind-blowing to me that you get an actual sketch from a Disney feature animation artist with his name on it. It's incredible. So we should be selling these. Let the business start now.
Right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Make sure to check out the audio version of the podcast this week. We have a special Halloween show. You can catch that on iTunes, Google Play Music, the Stitcher app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, all the places you can catch podcasts. So follow us on Twitter at the Disney Nerds, Instagram at the Disney Nerds Podcast, and make sure to follow the Disney Nerds Podcast on Facebook. Catch us here every Tuesday night at 9:00 Walt Disney World time. Next week, I'm not sure what we're doing, but me and Lisa will be in Walt Disney World somewhere, and we will be live from somewhere. So tune in every Tuesday night at 9:00.
Stay
Thanks,
tuned.
guys. Kwaharini.
So long, everybody.
Bonne nuit, les gens. Good night, people.